All right, so as I was saying a little earlier, one of the headline topics at the G8 this year is the issue of tax avoidance. We can speak now to Kevin Watkins. He's the director of the Overseas Development Institute. That's a think tank that covers international and humanitarian issues. Good to have you with us here in the studio in London. If we break it down, tax evasion, tax avoidance, we all like to think it's very easy. You just tell a company you can't make a load of money in one country and then ship it to another country where it has little or no tax. That's what we'd like to see happen. It's impossible, isn't it?
It's not impossible. I mean, we have a tax system globally that's really designed to facilitate tax evasion, and this is an opportunity for the G8 to start putting a different system in place. And really it's a win-win scenario, because we know that Europe and the United States and other rich countries are seeing their tax bases eroded by tax evasion and tax avoidance. But the biggest costs are actually in the world's poorest countries. We estimate that Africa, for every $1 in aid that Africa receives, it's losing $3 through tax evasion and illicit transfers. Now, you know, this is money that shouldn't be sitting in the British Virgin Islands and the Cayman Islands. It should be invested in schools, in health clinics, and in the infrastructure that we need to make the breakthrough in poverty in the world's poorest countries.
It must be quite helpful to you at the moment, because it has become a public issue, hasn't it? We've seen, certainly here in the UK, the likes of Amazon, Google, Starbucks, all being hauled over the coals by the British public, saying don't understand why they're not paying bits of tax that they should be. But how does that translate into getting international communities to work together to stop the tax evasion and avoidance? If, for example, countries like the US and Britain are themselves suffering for not receiving the tax.
Well, Starbucks has done wonders for the issues. It's put it on the map in a way that, you know, wasn't happening before. But what we need to see is practical action to do something about it. And that's why what we've been calling for in the Overseas Development Institute is a public registry in the offshore centres like the Cayman Islands, the British Virgin Islands. This is something that Britain, France and the United States could legislate for tomorrow. You know, we don't need to wait for a 2-year action plan to be rolled out. But we also need to see rich countries setting their own house in order. A lot of the illicit funds that are coming out of Africa are passing through the banking system in London. And that's why we've been also calling on the financial services and regulatory authorities in rich countries to start clamping down. You know, these are practical examples of leadership that can make a difference. And we have an opportunity here for the G8 to show that it's still relevant to the rest of the world, actually.
The British Prime Minister has been talking tough, talking about a clampdown on tax avoidance, tax havens. What do you think, though, is likely to come out of the all-important communique that's issued at the end of the summit? That's the one that they all sign up to. It's always very, very carefully worded. Well,
the devil's going to be in the detail, and I think David Cameron has shown extraordinary leadership in putting this issue on the agenda. What we're concerned about is that there are so many loopholes being written into the communique. You know, we're going to have a public registry, but it's not going to be accessible to the public. We're going to call on the offshore centres to, you know, design these registries, but we don't have a timetable. You know, we don't have the specific details in place. Delaware in the United States is a major centre for shell companies. We don't have any commitments from the United States. Germany is dragging its feet on a whole bunch of issues. So, you know, this is an opportunity for the British government to provide real leadership and I think secure some concrete and binding commitments. And ultimately, this summit has to be judged against the concrete commitments, not on the fine words. You know, we've had plenty of fine words in the past. Now we need to see the action.
We wait to see what that communique says. Kevin Watkins, for the moment, thanks very much, Steve, for coming in. Thank you.
Thank you.